You're listening to Something Cheeky, a collection of podcasts where two sisters discuss TV, books, and movies with just enough irreverence and far too many pop culture references. Welcome to Something Cheeky, the Gentleman Bastards edition, where we discuss the Lies of Locke Lamora, book 1 of the series by Scott Lynch. I'm Nikki.
I'm Rosanna.
While I've read the whole series, Rosanna has only read up to what we're covering today, which is Chapter 12, The Fat Priest from Tal Verrar. In this chapter, Locke's got 99 problems, and since we still haven't met Sabbatha, a bitch ain't one. So, Rosanna, what was your reaction to this chapter?
I thought that this chapter was kind of important because it showed us Locke's rescue and recovery, because it was really obvious that he couldn't have gone on any further.
Yeah.
And we get to meet a new person who is an ally, and then it also shows that Locke and Jean are sort of able now to get back on the plan, but it was kind of a weird chapter. I thought...
Yeah.
It sort of felt like that there were these necessary facts that we as readers needed to hear, and the story had Jean just say, oh, and by the way, when you were passed out, I did this. It just felt really, it didn't feel like a natural flow to the story.
Yeah, it didn't do much to further the plot at all. It just kind of filled in the gap to get us to be able to move on.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't much to it.
It was really short.
Yeah. What was your favorite quote from this?
The quote I chose was by Abelius. He said, talking about Locke, his warm humors were at a singularly low ebb. The channels of his frame were entirely evacuated of vim. He was pale, unresponsive, bruised, desiccated, and malnourished. So, I don't know what warm humors singularly at a low ebb or being evacuated of vim means. But this guy sounds like a total drama queen.
Yeah.
And it made me laugh, because it makes no sense.
Let's get right into the action, what little action there actually was.
Mm-hmm.
Locke wakes up to the unfamiliar voice in Jean, who's also quite dirty, even though he's usually quite fastidious. Though Locke is also, I'm sure, very dirty.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there is quite a stench in the room that they are in.
Oh, I'm sure.
I really hope these guys get a bath soon. And we meet Abelius, who is really offended when they call him a dog leech, because those are people who practice kind of illegalish medicine, the way that black alchemists practice, I guess, illegalish science. And so dog leeches work for the right people. It's like all the movies I see where apparently criminals have special doctors they go to because regular doctors will report bullet wounds to the authorities.
Yeah, there are a lot like that.
I assume that's true in real life, but I've never heard it in real life. I've literally only ever heard that in movies and TV.
Yeah.
I assume everyone, like on Breaking Bad, has their own special doctor that they go to in the middle of the night. I feel like in books, half the time it's like a vet and not even a regular human doctor.
Like on Teen Wolf. They always go to the vet.
That guy knows way more about the human body than he should as a trained veterinarian.
Yes, that's true. But he's not just a veterinarian. He's a lot of things.
And no offense to all of our veterinarian listeners, but I don't want you doing surgery on me in the middle of the night.
Yeah, if it was literally life or death, I would say, yeah, give it your best shot.
Ha, shot, bullet. So it turns out that Abelius is collegium trained. He is a real physiker. So no wonder he's offended.
Says him.
That's true. We don't actually know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's got a diploma hanging up in his apartment.
So if he's a real physiker, why is he working like a dog leech? What is his backstory?
He probably accidentally killed somebody.
Oh.
Isn't that usually the story?
It usually is, yeah.
Doctors that can't practice medicine anymore, it's because they accidentally killed somebody. Or on purpose, I don't know.
Dr. Watson on Elementary.
Exactly.
Lucy Liu accidentally killed someone and lost her medical license. Mm-hmm. Yep, just like that. Now I'm picturing her as Abelius. It describes him, the unfamiliar voice, it seemed, came from a wrinkled, bird-like man with skin like a weathered brown tabletop.
Oh boy.
And unfortunately, Locke is mostly naked again, and I'm uncomfortable again with this situation. At this point, I'm imagining this super emaciated dude lying on a table, just like Jared Leto, Dallas Buyers Club era.
Okay.
And he stinks not just because he hasn't bathed, but because he's got this poultice on him, which we learn is earthworms and turpentine, which sounds very smelly.
Who even anyone comes up with this stuff, you know what I think would really work on this injury? Bring me the earthworms and the turpentine. How do you even figure out that works?
Plus some proprietary ingredients.
Of course, yes.
The secret ingredient is, and it turns out he doesn't have any serious injuries. He has, a cut on his arm, but other than that, it's really just he's just exhausted and needs to rest and eat.
Yes, he needs to eat and he needs to rest and he just needs a timeout for his mental health also.
So he should go to a celebrity rehab.
Exactly.
For his exhaustion.
Yes. If he was a celebrity, he would be in rehab for sure.
Yeah. Oh, we find out that, thank the gods, Jean saw him fall.
Yeah.
And was able to rescue him. If he hadn't have, I wonder how long it would have taken Jean to find him.
I think Jean was probably going to be on the lookout for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to have known that Locke was not going to last much longer.
Yeah, and though even then he said that he hardly recognized him at that point. He was this bearded beggar. We learn that Jean is worth 500 crowns, so it's a bounty on his head, since he's the only one assumed alive at this point from their little gang. And Locke is wondering why Ibelius hasn't turned them in. So, like any other Komori, we learn it's because of revenge. His brother was one of the right people and was killed because apparently he was loyal to Varsavi, so the Grey King killed him. So he's all about helping someone for free, even, that might take some revenge of the Grey King, even though he finds that pretty unlikely to actually happen.
He doesn't have a lot of confidence in this scheme, but he's willing to, back it up a little bit.
Yeah, I understand why he doesn't. Seeing Locke like this, and it's not like people know anything about Locke beyond the Gentleman Bastards.
No, the guy was passed out for 2 days.
Yeah. And people know him as a small-time thief, basically. Nobody knows him as, the genius Thorn of Camor. Oh my, I love that they even have a special hand signal just to represent Thorn of Camor.
I like that too.
They talk about it enough to have it. Locke says, "Well, Jean, we seem to have a hiding place, a physiker, and the two of us. What are our other assets? Tell me you didn't think immediately of Wesley on the wall with Fezzik and Inigo Montoya." Listing out their assets and the Holocaust cloak.
If only we had a Holocaust cloak. Oh, you didn't list that.
If only we had a wheelbarrow.
I love that movie so much.
Always relevant.
Yes, it's timeless.
It is timeless. We find out that Jean got help from the Azagia temple, from priests there. He got a new sorrowful visage and a robe so he could use it to do a little reconnaissance. While the burrow was still burning, he went to the temple and he was already on making a new plan to find out what he could, which is really impressive. We haven't seen this side of Jean before. We haven't seen plan making and strategy. We've just seen his brutishness. So it's nice to see that there's more to him than just physicality and some quips here and there and sewing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice to know that he is certainly on par with Locke, intelligence-wise, even if he's not the brains of the operation.
Right.
Jean's story to get all the help from the priests is that he says he was basically kidnapped and chained to an oar. And he saw sharks, or as he called them, the Dark Brothers, which I really liked.
Yeah.
And he jumped in the water and swam to shore because they are friends of the Lady Most Kind, which is a pretty good story. Ibelius was wondering if it was dangerous to pretend to be a fake priest of the death goddess of all. I mean, that's really the one you don't want to cross if you're going to cross a god. Probably not the one that might kill you. But they make an interesting point, and there's a little quip about how their old mentor, Father Chains, had said because they're serving the Nameless 13th, the Crooked Warden, that they are able to get away with pretending to be priests of other faiths. Our mentor once told us that the initiates of the benefactor were strangely immune to consequences when they find they must pass as members of other priesthoods. Made to feel strangely welcome, I'd say, added Jean. Furthermore, said Locke, Jean and I are sworn to the divine service of the benefactor, father of necessary pretexts.
I love that just little bit of the line. Necessary pretext.
So basically, white lies.
Necessary.
Yeah.
We need them.
I was surprised to see that Raza didn't wait the promised 3 days to let people either go see him, to pledge their allegiance to him, or to leave town. That he just killed them all after 2 days.
I wasn't really that surprised. I think what he's trying to do is prove to everybody else that he's not somebody to mess with, and if people couldn't make up their minds in 24 hours, then he has no use for them.
Yeah. I think the reason I was surprised is because he had made so much about how he would keep his word about things and keep the word of even Barsavi before him.
I think he probably just doesn't want people to think they can rely on him, because then they'll get complacent.
So which makes you even think that he's not as sly as Barsavi was, because remember the story about the carpet?
Yes.
With Barsavi? Yeah, he let people become complacent so he could find out what he wanted to find out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is necessarily a good plan. I just think that's what his plan is.
Yeah. One interesting tidbit, we didn't get much of it at all, was that Raza pulled in about half a dozen people and claimed they were agents of the spider. How do you think he knew this if they were? Do you think they actually were? How did he find out? Gene said he didn't see any connection between them, so that would indicate it wasn't something he was claiming to get rid of some specific people.
And he didn't kill them. He just told them to leave town.
Right.
So that also makes me think that that's for show.
Okay.
Like, you need to stay here and work for me and don't even think about going to work for the spider because I can find out.
Okay. Do you think those people actually were, or he just picked them randomly?
I don't know if he picked them randomly. Maybe they were just people he wanted to leave anyway. But I don't know that he actually... Well, though now that I think about it, he did know about Tal Verrar game. So...
If he did use... or if he had Falconer use Ventress to find out more information, that would assume that he knew how to tell people were agents of the spider. But since people don't seem to know that the spider is located in the Amberglass Tower and all that, it makes it hard to figure out how you could even determine that unless you spotted them with Midnighters.
I don't know. I kind of feel like he's just taking steps to put on a sort of show to have people perceive him the way he wants them to. You know, killing people before they've reached the 3 days and calling out people for working for the spider. I think he's trying to get people scared of him.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of that is based on actual truth.
Do you think we're going to find out if he knows anything about the spider or if this was all just for show?
I don't know.
Calling out people he thinks or claims are spider agents is a very separate step from, getting Gorestas to be loyal or to say that they're loyal to you. It's almost trying to get the attention of the spider herself.
I can't decide if he's really, really smart and cocky or if he's just too cocky. I just can't tell. You know what I mean? I can't decide how much of what he's doing is for show and how much he's got going on in the background, I guess.
I always wonder if he is... Well, I used to wonder when I read this the first time, if he was one of those guys that, spends years and years and years making this plan for revenge. So Inigo Montoya is a perfect example. He spent all these years making a plan. Once he got his plan completed and he killed the six-fingered man... or the 11-fingered man, he didn't know what to do with himself. And not necessarily that I think the Grey King doesn't know what to do with himself, but I got the impression that he made all the plans, he got where he wanted to be, and now he's kind of flying by the seat of his pants.
It does feel like that.
Just to see what he can do now.
This part doesn't feel as well thought out as the actions that led up to it.
Right.
So I guess maybe that's where I'm getting that sort of... I mean, I think he probably is really smart, but yeah,
But they do feel more erratic.
Yes. It almost feels like a different character from before Barsavi died to after Barsavi died.
Yeah. Maybe there really is a fourth quadruplet and he took over.
Maybe it was identical twins that made up the quadruplets. And so there are 2 men and 2 women.
Can you have 2 sets of identical twins in quadruplets?
Yes.
Interesting.
But what you have to do is release 2 eggs, and both of them have to split to identical twins.
Split, okay.
Which, I mean, the chances are probably astronomical. But it's possible. I'm sure it's happened.
That'd be crazy because you'd have, 2 separate placentas, each with 2 babies?
Yeah.
Because the identical twins share a placenta, right?
Right. Okay. Was it you that had friends that were triplets and 2 of them were identical and 1 wasn't? Or maybe...
No, they were all fraternal.
Okay. I've heard of triplets where 2 were identical and 1 was not. And that's what this is supposedly, if he really is a triplet, which that's not been confirmed, it was just a guess. But to have both of the eggs split...
Listeners, I bet when you started listening to this podcast, you never thought you'd get a genetics lesson.
A very, very poor genetics lesson.
suppositions about eggs and placentas and twins.
Yeah, never take medical advice from either one of us.
I only provide old wives' tales as medical advice to people. Just throw a little salt over your shoulder and everything will be fine.
That's all there is to it. Pretty sure that's a superstition on Old Wives' Tale, but whatever.
They fall in the same category, I'm going to say. See, I don't even know proper English. Don't listen to me about anything.
Yeah. Only take our advice about where to buy cool stuff.
That's all I'm good at.
And also which books to read and movies to watch. And TV shows to watch.
Yes. So several things.
Just superficial things, though.
Things that won't really affect your life in any meaningful way.
Now I totally want to start a something cheeky advice column.
God.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yes.
We should do that.
We'd give the shittiest
So
advice
bad.
ever. Probably just like devolve into us bickering about what someone should actually do. So, listeners, if you need any advice about anything, please send us your questions.
Please do.
I'm not kidding. We will read that on the air and answer your questions.
We will give you the best advice we possibly can. Which is not saying much, but you know what? There it is.
Actually, there's a blog that I read called Ask a Manager, and people write in with their work questions, and there is so much drama in all these people's work situations. It is so much fun to read. But every once in a while, Allison, the author of the blog, and she gives amazing advice too. It's really great. But every once in a while, she'll get questions, and she'll run out a whole bunch of them at once about fictional characters in office situations. Like, how can I tell if my manager is a vampire or any things like that? Yeah, they're pretty fun.
That is funny.
Anyhow, plague ship. It sounds like it's not as much of a coincidence as it had seemed to be.
I don't think it's a coincidence at all.
Raza had proclaimed that he would be the one in charge of sending provisions. And we find out it doesn't really sound like they're actually sending any provisions at all. It sounds like he's offloading the money.
Yeah, I don't think this was a coincidence or that there's a plague. Just a ship showed up to take the money.
Yeah. It's a pretty good way to make sure nobody comes near it.
That's true.
Also, it seems odd that a plague ship would be a ship that is so fancy. This is like a beautiful, very expensive looking ship from Emberlane of all places, which sounds like a pretty rich area.
Yeah, but I mean, like, diseases don't pick people.
That's true. But usually you'd expect that ships that are nicer have, better hygiene going on. They just seem less like the people that would be on the ship probably can afford to stay clean.
I guess it depends on the plague.
Yeah. They didn't give us much information about what plague does to people.
Yeah, and also, I mean, we're saying plague with quotation marks around it, right?
Yeah. And the guy was originally, when we first, saw anyone from the plague ship, he was, begging for a physiker, saying that everyone was dying, all the important people were sick. So do you think that was all acting? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
That's what you
Definitely.
think? Okay. Just complete bullshit, every bit of it.
Yes.
Okay. So if you do think that you think it's Raz's people, is that?
Yeah, or people that, he's hired.
Mm-hmm. Which makes him have a lot more people than we thought. At first we thought it was just him and the Falconer. And then we saw he had at least a couple other people, but it seemed really limited because, Locke and Jean thought that they only had the one assassin in the borough because he just didn't have enough people to send out. And then we see a few more people. It's like every chapter he doubles his force almost.
Maybe he has access to people. I mean, they could be hired people.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think that we know if he has been in Comor this whole time, his whole life.
Right.
So if he'd been away, he could have, met other people, gotten in cahoots with them.
And we don't actually know who he is. He could be literally anyone from any station. He could be someone really important in another city-state. He could be the Duke of Emberlane or something. I mean, we don't know who he is. It's very mysterious. So he may actually, have access to more than we would expect, just some random dude out for revenge. We just don't know. All the people that are moving the provisions seem to be Roz's kind of private guard. And they mention they have a lot of earrings, like nautical style. So are they all pirates? That's the feeling I'm getting from these people.
So the people that are loading stuff onto the ship are Komori?
I'm not sure it's specified.
But they're definitely not from the ship because nobody's allowed to come off of the ship.
Right, right. It said a small team of burly stevedores, which means stevedore, a person employed or a contractor engaged at a dock to load and unload cargo from ships. Thank you, Kindle Dictionary.
So again, they might not be his people. They're just working for him right now.
Yeah.
And maybe they always work down by where the ships come in. Maybe that's where they get their work.
Under the watch of half a dozen cloaked men and women, obviously armed.
So maybe they are Raza's people.
Jean says it's so kind of them to do the work that ordinarily the Order of Paralandra would do. But because Paralandra's temple has burned down, it's impossible. Which made me wonder if the Gentlemen Bastards have ever done this kind of work when they were acting as priests of Paralandra. We haven't seen anything to indicate that, but it doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. Because it seems like there's one temple per god in every town. So it's not like there's another temple that would have done this sort of thing.
Right.
So I don't know. Locke he really, really wants to start working again. And he wants to get up and start plans and start his revenge game, but he is just so weak. And Abelius tells him he has to rest for a day or two before he can even do anything. Get some food, and he already starts planning and asks to borrow some of the doctor's clothes. And we learned that they burned down his home or his rooms. I'm not sure exactly what he had. And so he doesn't even have much anymore, Abelius. And it sounds like a lot of blood relatives of people that were loyal to Barsavi have been killed, which that seems to take it a little too far. I mean, is that necessary?
It does seem like overkill.
Ha ha ha. Or is he just doing that to avoid having those people come to try to enact revenge on him?
Yeah.
Or blood feuds.
He just want to murder everybody, so it's just him and his sisters left.
Yeah, it's terrible. We also learned that Jean is totally on the frickin' ball and wrote to the Salvares to keep the game going, which is great. Locke is over the moon about this.
Yes.
Which was nice. Finally some good news.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, they need money. And, I mean, even along with all the money in the vault, all their false identities were stolen and all the banking documents. So they can't even go to the money lender or to the banks and get the money that they've deposited because they don't have the right information. And Locke needs money because he doesn't have the right clothes to play Lucas Fairwhite anymore.
Yeah, I think they think it's a good idea to go back to the Salvares, but I'm concerned because of the plot to catch the Thorn.
Yes. Yeah, it's easy to forget about that with all this other stuff going on.
Yes, I did forget about it until Jean mentioned it, and I was like, whoa, no. That's maybe not the best place to go.
I'm trying to remember if Forcenza had said a specific amount of days for inviting them to the Midsummer Feast and all that.
I wonder if this letter will put it off to another time. Maybe the day will pass that they had planned on.
Do you think it might save them? This Locke getting injured may actually be helpful in the long run?
Well, it might, but I think that's probably just temporary.
Locke basically makes a plan to gamble to get the rest of to get the money that they need. He's going to start with what little they've got, which, as we know, is the worst thing a terrible gambler can do. Take the last of their money. I'm just going to double it, and then I'll double that, and then I'll double that, and then we'll all be fine. Everything will be great.
Gambling is not for investment purposes. That's what all the commercials say.
Yeah, the fine print on the billboards. So I thought that Locke basically trying to magic up a bunch of extra money made the title of the interlude interesting.
Yeah.
Because next episode we're going to talk about the White Iron Conjurers, which was not anything about Locke at all, really.
Nope. Or magic.
Yeah, we need something. I need some more, Scott Lynch. Give me some more. All right, Rosanna, what's your top 3 this episode?
The top 3 actions that Jean took while Locke was recovering. These were things that Jean did that it's a good thing he did them.
Jean was solid this chapter.
He really got some stuff done. He did not sit around pining at Locke's bedside. Number 1, he conned his way back into the house of Azagia as a priest, and he got food and maybe cleaned up a little. Not as much as he wanted to. But the most important part is he got the disguise.
Yeah.
Number 2, he used the disguise to go spy on Kappa Raza's people at the plague ship. I was doing the quotes with my fingers there. And discovered that they were moving money, which we don't have a full story about that, but any information at this point is going to help them with their plan.
I'm guessing you were pretty surprised at it being money rather than provisions.
I was very surprised it was money, yes. And I wonder if it's Locke and Jean's money.
Ah.
Which could be. And I'm still mad that they got robbed.
Yeah.
Which isn't really... I mean, all that money was stolen. So I don't know. I don't know why I feel sorry for them, but I do.
It's because we like them.
And then number 3, that Jean wrote the letter to the Salvaras to keep that plan in motion. And even though I'm concerned about it, from their perspective, that's a good thing to happen because it leaves a line open, access to money.
It makes me wonder when this spider, I'm sure, heard about that letter before that happened, if she wondered if they had somehow caught wind of her being onto them. And just left. We don't know because there's no Donna Vorcenza in here telling us what happened. So we're going to hold your predictions for the interlude episode because the interlude was 3 pages.
Was it even that? It was really short.
I'm not even sure. And I'll say this in the interlude, but next week we're going to have a little bit different schedule. Usually we have our chapter episodes come out Monday and the interlude episode come out Friday. However, chapter 13 does not have an interlude and it's super long. So we're going to have 1 episode next week. Now it's time for Cheek of the Week, where we talk about something awesome that we want to share with each other and with you, dear listeners. Rosanna, what's your cheek?
My cheek this week is a device that's very hard to explain. It's called a WizGear Universal Air Vent Magnetic Car Mount Holder with fast, swift snap technology for smartphones.
That is a really long name.
So basically what it is, it's this little device that fits in the palm of your hand. One side of it is a round plastic and rubbery, but it's got a heavy-duty magnet inside. And then the other side is sort of a... How do I explain what this is?
Like a clip?
It's not a clip, though. It's more like it slides onto your vent.
Oh, okay.
And you can turn it one way, or you can flip it and go the other way, depending on how thick your vent is. And when you buy it, it comes with a rectangle magnet that you put in between your phone and its case. And
okay.
so, what's so great about it is it holds your phone in your car and you don't have to adjust anything. You just stick your phone to it. It's almost like it's sticky because it's a magnet. So, there's no adjustment. You just stick it up there and it hooks to your vent, so it's right where you'd like sort of look down to. Mainly for me, what I use it for is when I'm following a map because I need it in my line of sight where I can just glance over and try to figure out where the heck I'm going, especially when I'm in Portland. And $7 on Amazon.
Nice.
That's my cheek. Nikki, what's yours?
My cheek is kind of a blog. It's a Tumblr that is amazing. I'm not sure if I've ever told you about it before, Rosanna, but if I haven't, I know you're going to go there tonight right after this and binge read all of the posts. It's called The Setup Wizard, thesetupwizard.tumblr.com. It is posts from someone who, it's all, I mean, of course, all fictional, but it's based on Harry Potter. Probably not surprised by hearing wizard. But it is kind of following a man who does the IT at Hogwarts.
No such thing.
There hasn't been until him. He's introduced Wi-Fi. All the students have cell phones because, you know, they grew up outside that. A lot of them in the Muggle world. And so he, you know, keeps the Wi-Fi going. He does all this technological stuff. And he's a Muggle. He's completely new to the wizarding world, but he's learning all this. He's watching all this weird magic stuff happen around him. And it's so funny because it's such a great parallel of him looking at magic and how crazy it is, but the technology that he helps people with in Hogwarts is like magic to them. If they didn't have magic. They don't, like, the professors have no idea what's happening. People are coming to him because they're trying to cast spells on their iPads. It is amazing. It's so funny. He'll turn off Wi-Fi if people, like, misbehave. They have IT points you can earn instead of house points.
Oh my gosh.
It is, God, it's so funny. And so it's not just the guy posting. And I'm not sure if he does all the posts himself or if there are multiple people that do it. There's the guy character, the main guy, and then he hires a woman who is a half-blood to work with him. And then, we meet some other people. We meet someone in the Ministry of Magic. There's a student that comes on every once in a while and posts. And he's like the tech person. He's kind of a wizard hacker, I guess. But it's just, it's hilarious. So just imagine Hogwarts if they had Wi-Fi and cell phones.
I don't think I can imagine that.
It is, God, it's so funny. It's so much fun to read. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. There's a link right at the top where you can start from the beginning, which I definitely recommend doing it that way and just read all the way through to catch up. And they post several times a week.
Really?
Yeah, so you get, and
wow.
they're just real short little, paragraph of text. But there are all these kind of subplots going on that you can keep up with, that you get updates on every once in a while. The woman is dating someone from the Ministry of Magic, and there's one post where someone makes a port key out of a VHS of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because she doesn't think anyone will touch it. And he's like, of course I touched it. And he ended up in the closet of this woman from the Ministry of Magic because that was her girlfriend and he wasn't supposed to get there. And so it's just stuff like that, all these wacky things happening and misunderstandings and things. It's really, really fun to read. So that's the Setup Wizard. It's so much fun. If you like Harry Potter, you will love this.
So listeners, you can visit our website to find all of our Cheeks of the Week, learn about our other podcasts, send us questions and feedback, and support the show through our Amazon affiliate link at somethingcheekypodcast.com/Amazon. Hey, and also send us some questions for our advice column. I really think we should get this thing going.
We give great advice. It's amazing. That's our episode. Please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us reach additional listeners. And follow us on Twitter at SomeCheek and Facebook.com/SomeCheek. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.